less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor. Interview.
Wait, this is live.
You know, I'm a little nervous today because we've been getting some feedback, which means people are actually listening. And I never actually anticipated that anybody was going to listen to this stuff.
Yeah, now you report something, you're
kind of tighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, last night, we're sitting, one of those rare, odd moments where you're sitting around the table. You know, it's like, it was a miracle that...
You mean eating?
No, gosh, no.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, that would be weird.
No. So I'm sitting there, my wife's sitting there, our youngest son, he's doing his college applications and stuff, and then our oldest son, who was home for the day, he wanted to come home and study, he goes to OU. So we're all just sitting in there, it's about 10 o'clock at night, and I say, hey guys, I said, I'm doing a podcast tomorrow. They busted out laughing. Yeah. I'm like, what's so funny?
A podcast.
They said, Dad, do you even know what a podcast is? And I actually listened to my first one this summer I was in the car with my oldest son. We were on a little trip. And he said, oh, let's listen to this. And I'm like, man, that's just like, for 8 hours, we listened to 8 different episodes.
Oh, nice. Which one was it?
Tim Ferriss or something?
I forget the guy. But it was just like, okay, I could do this.
Yeah. It's kind of like an audiobook sometimes.
Yeah, it's like a book on tape. Like a book on tape.
Yeah.
So I told my boys, I said, I'm doing a podcast. And I still don't think they believe me. And I may not tell them where they can go to.
Well, let's see if they can find it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I've since we started this, actually, I think if you go back and you listen to episode 3, is it? I said we're going to get John Hill on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we presaged this vision before we even told you.
Before I even told you. But
really?
Honestly, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. John's one of my favorite people. And I tell that to everybody. That's not just in front of your face. But
you might even say who he is because we've been talking here.
We're gonna let him tell a little bit who he is. But this is something where we could probably go in a million different directions on a single question. And so I'm gonna have to rein it in, but I'm not gonna rein it in too much because I do want to hear a little bit of the banter between you two. So you guys are neighbors.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't really even make the connection.
No, but we've met before
in
your
neighbor's
front
driveway.
Yard. Yeah.
And then till today, I didn't realize I didn't make the connection.
Yeah.
So even though we are an international podcast, it's okay to just to talk to neighbors. If they're on point. Okay, but we are international.
Well, I thought about, like, I listened to that one on Sergio, and I thought, well, man, I loved his accent. So I'm like, I practiced on a few.
Yeah, you got to have your thing, you know.
What can make the old Southern man sound
being old and Southern? That's that is intriguing.
I think it's intriguing. It's intriguing already. So people can't see, but I've actually got this fine brisket sandwich sitting in front of me.
I had one.
Martin had one, and it's gone. I don't know what happened to it. But John, I was calling him to prep for this, and he was telling me about his brisket, and I thought, what better way to start the podcast than for you to tell us about the coffee-crusted brisket? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so give us the rundown.
Yeah. Well, I love to grill, love to smoke stuff, you name it. I'm from Alabama, so the first thing, you got to smoke a possum or some kind of fresh roadkill.
Hard to keep them to stay lit, right?
Yeah. So, but anyway, so I cooked a brisket a couple of years ago and just really didn't study it much, and it was the worst piece of meat ever. So I kind of shied away from it. I said, I'm not doing that again. And then finally, as I got into cooking more, I thought, I'm gonna do a brisket. But I can't do it for a group of people, until I test it out. So this past Saturday, I had no plans, no one coming over. So I told my wife I'm gonna cook a brisket, Saturday. She's like, what are we having? I said, nothing. And she gives me that look like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, so go to Sam's, pick out the brisket, and decided how I was going to prep it. So Friday afternoon, prepped it, put it in the refrigerator, had it ready to go. Got up Saturday morning about 1 o'clock and started the smoker and then, prepped it. And, but yeah, basically, I coated it. Anytime I cook any type of beef or pork, you want to get that good bark on there. And one of the tricks is mustard. Put a thin coat of mustard on there. And then I put my seasoning, and then...
And you can't tell us what that is. That's secret.
Okay, here's the thing. Anytime somebody comes over to my house, had some friends come over last night, in addition to that cowboy ribeye, I did some grilled chicken. Some Parmesan garlic grilled chicken. So, can I use people's names on here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
We'll have to get a release from them, but that's okay.
I sent a picture to Ted Newton, one of our soccer buddies.
Yeah.
And
so not Ted Nugent.
No, not Ted Nugent.
Oh, okay.
No. Anyway, about 40 minutes later, a knock on my door. I'm sitting there, unwinding, and it's Ted. He's like, where's the brisket and the chicken? And he came in there, and he had a piece of that chicken. Or not the brisket, it was the cowboy ribeye.
Yeah.
And he tasted that chicken. He said, "This is the best chicken I've ever had." I'm like, number one, there's no such thing as the best.
Don't talk to Mike Lawson.
Huh?
Mike Lawson works hard on his chicken.
Yeah, but he's too uppity for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so I went in the refrigerator, grabbed the Great Value Parmesan garlic sauce, and I told Ted, it's this and Dale's steak sauce, and I didn't do it on the Traeger. I put it on that cheap Weber gas grill. I said, it's not rocket science. So back to the rub, and I've made my own rubs, and you get a teaspoon of cumin and a teaspoon of I can't pronounce this and a teaspoon of this secret stuff. We blend it all together, and it tastes just like if you go buy Texas brisket rub,
Yeah.
So I coated that brisket in mustard or thin layer. Put that Texas brisket rub on there.
Yeah.
Then I took Folgers coffee and sprinkled it all over the top and the bottom.
Because?
Just because I
You
could.
see what?
Because
it was there.
Because it was there.
There you go. Okay.
No, but I've had coffee encrusted, name it, at a restaurant. I'm like, that's pretty good. So I put that over the top of it, and then once it reached a certain internal temperature on the smoker, 160, I took it out, set the brisket on a big foil, and then right before I closed it up, I poured a Coca-Cola over the top.
Acid.
Yeah. Okay, acid and kind of the caramelization. So, which the next time...
Those are kind of like technical terms, aren't they?
I think so. I don't know what that... I read
it doesn't
that.
matter. It sounds really good.
One of my buddies used that the other day in a sentence, and I'm like, man,
wow, I'm going to use that.
Caramelization. Have no idea the root word. Couldn't spell it.
It's from California. There's a Carmel.
Okay.
California. Yeah, that's what they do out there.
Caramelization, California.
Ooh, it's a vice presidential candidate too, Carmela.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, man, isn't it fascinating when you get into words?
I know.
How they just permeate society? They dictate how we live and how we think. Anyway, back to caramelization.
Yeah, caramelization. Anyway, so I double wrapped that and put it back. At that point, it doesn't need all the smoke. So it's gotten the smoke flavor. Now I double wrapped it and just put it in the oven at about 225. So the whole process, from the time I put it on the smoker until it finished in the oven, was 12 hours. Then I took it out and then wrapped in a big towel, kept it wrapped in the foil in the towel, and then it's almost like a newborn baby. You got to wrap that thing up. And so then I just set it in the oven, in the cold oven, or you can put it in the microwave or a cooler, it doesn't matter, and let it set for about an hour. And then it rests in the juices, so.
And that's what we're going to see.
But it turned out, I had envisioned, all right, I'm going to taste it. It's going to taste like crap, and then I'll figure something else to do. But it turned out, and if I had to cook it the next week, I would do the same way.
But that's implying that you remember everything you did.
Sure.
Okay. Well, we have it recorded now.
Yeah. So
okay.
I may have to go back and. But it's kind of like the Southern thing, like my grandmother. she didn't have a recipe book. It's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a taste of this, a pinch of that, and that's the best.
Man, I've got a formula too. It's like dial Pizza Hut.
Well, you can't.
But I got it in. I don't remember the number, but I got it in my phone.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. You couldn't.
And then they say same as last time. I go, what did I get last? Yeah. Well, no, that'll be good.
Well, I like it because you call them up and they'll
identify.
say, "Hey, John, would you like to repeat that last order?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I don't know what it was. But yeah, I do. Did the brisket yesterday. I did a cowboy ribeye, and I put coffee on that top too. Here's what I liked about the coffee: is like that juice. I think the technical term is au jus.
Oh yeah, that's French.
Which means with
Juice.
juice.
Yeah.
Khalil, I don't know. I'm trying to use these words.
If you were a little farther west out there in New Orleans, you'd know.
Oh.
They speak French. Huh?
New Orleans is the east of here. You said west.
No, but he's talking about being in Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and I love the Cajun, like that seasoning. But anyway, that juice from the brisket. So I poured all that juice in a bowl, just setting it aside. Then when I put some back on top, I took a little sip of that juice, and that coffee. That's where the coffee. Now the coffee gave it a good dark crust.
Yeah.
But it also gave it that good little bite. So like that, when I had my first sandwich, I took, that brisket, didn't put any sauce on it. That doesn't have any sauce. Any
Yeah, the
barbecue
jalapenos
sauce.
on the one I ate.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
really
I took the brisket, and then I put some jalapenos on top, and I took some blue cheese on top. So it's like a tornado in your mouth. Yeah, I had the hot, I had the cold. So,
Well, what I like here is people are saying, this is really interesting, but I tuned in for the cash flow contractor.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm sure you did.
and this is how genius we are.
well,
Now, John's a salesman,
Right.
right? And what he just demonstrated was he completely sold me on his
If
brisket.
you're not sold on brisket
Yeah.
right now,
I-
if your mouth's not watering and you're about to go get some
Yeah,
brisket,
this wasn't just impromptu. We planned this, and
Yeah.
you just
Well,
sold
see,
me on
here's
brisket
the
with
best-
coffee on it.
here's the best thing. I didn't cook that brisket. I stopped by Hardee's this morning, and I bought all that, and then I just put it in my Tupperware.
And then we
But I
bought it.
sold it.
Yeah, you sold,
it.
There you go.
How do you
Nah,
like
and I
that?
think there's a lot of lessons you can learn from that. I think everyone's mouth's watering, one, but the reason why is because you explained the process, and you didn't just say this is what it is. You talked about how you cooked possums in Alabama first, and there was some
He
humor
smoked
to
possum.
it.
Oh, you meant cooking them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you said
gotta-
smoked possum. I thought you.
No.
I thought you rolled them in papers.
No.
Well,
There's a lot of legal things in Alabama, but that's still.
No, so he gave some humor, right, and took our guard down, right, and then he started to explain how difficult it is, and how it's easy to mess up, and how you took your time and you tried new things, but the entire process, and explain the process is so important in sales, I think, for people to understand exactly what you're going to do, and I know you do this whenever you're working with some of your prospects,
Yeah.
and when you're selling, you explain the process of what you're going to do, and you let them know from beginning to end what they can expect. Anyways,
He also gave us a vision of
yeah,
and created a desire.
yeah,
Put
absolutely.
on the desire that we already had.
And
John, we didn't really plan to have you do that. Well, it just occurred to me.
Well, no, but here's the funny thing is I was meeting with a customer last Friday, and went and they had a blank patio. I mean, it's just they had poured a new pad, and the only thing sitting there was a Traeger smoker. I'm like, man, I got a Traeger for 30 minutes.
Is that a like?
It's a
Is there a
Wintel
big
smoker.
right? But is that a big like competition or rivalry between like a Green Egg and a Traeger? Or are they completely different?
Two totally different, and you'll see both at the same house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the Traeger is a pellet grill. The Green Egg, you can use their charcoal or their wood. It's two different,
Yeah.
and one's not better than the other.
So the guys, they can't decide, so they buy them both.
Some buy both, and then some will buy what's big now is that Blackstone griddle.
I haven't seen that.
You know, those are big. It's just a griddle. You can get the propane tank underneath, or you can, gas. So it's a skillet.
Yeah.
It's an outdoor skillet. I think a lot of times.
Probably really. What's it cost? Blackstone grill.
You can get a Blackstone for like $300 at
okay.
Academy. Yeah.
Now let's get an idea of the Traeger. What's the Traeger cost?
Depends on what size you get. I got the larger one like 2-3 years ago, and it was like $800 at Academy.
Okay, but the green egg's more than that, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, and because those can get in the thousands, right?
Yeah. But see, the thing about the Traeger is, and I've never had a green egg, so I don't know, but the green egg's very well insulated. So can I start a fire in the morning, go to work, and come home 12 hours later, and I still had the same temperature?
Yeah.
Yes, the answer is yes.
My
and
brother-in-law's done
same.
that. Well, so real quick, let's tell a little bit about who you are and what you do, because I think it's, without understanding who Green Okie is, how you got to work for them, it's a little hard to understand why we're talking so much about grills and why you were talking to a customer about it. So tell us about who you are, where you're from first.
Yeah, John Hill, very common name. I was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Born and raised there. Went to school. Went to college at Alabama.
Hey, just interrupt, sorry, but did they have a football team down there?
If you have to ask that question,
Well,
you
I
don't
just
watch.
want-
You
it
don't
rings
watch
a
much
bell.
Sports, do you?
Well,
You
it
don't
rings,
watch
but
much.
there aren't any sports
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, we play a little bit. We have a college athletic program down there.
That's right. It's got an elephant. I'm
Yeah,
sorry
got
to
an
distract
elephant
you.
or something.
I just wanted to clarify that.
But no, so grew up in Tuscaloosa, and back then, I knew where Bear Bryant lived. You'd see him at, I thought he worked at 7-Eleven because anytime, I'd be 3, 4, 5 years old, and we'd stop at this one 7-Eleven and then walk in. There's Bear Bryant, and of course he's 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
Literally.
Not counting his houndstooth.
Yeah. Well, in Alabama, you've got God, John Wayne, and Bear Bryant. And depending on
what day it is,
the order may change. So grew up in Tuscaloosa, and went to Alabama. My major was accounting. The funny thing, and I don't know how much you're getting into
No, that's okay.
backstory.
No, that's good. What did you major in?
Majored in accounting. So the funny thing is, I was about 8 years old, and I had an uncle, and he lived out in Houston, Texas. And so he came into town one day, and he drove, and he pulled up in this Mazda RX-7.
when they were kind of new.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's the first sticker I ever saw on the window of a car that said, there's the list price, and then below that said ADP, and it was like $3,000. And I said, what the hell's that? And the guy goes, that's added dealer profit.
oh, so they're going to
That's
tell
what
you
it
right
said,
now.
ADP.
ADP.
You said, yeah, they just added a couple of grand to the car. Anyway, go ahead. But
Yeah.
that's the first
So I said, Uncle Bill, what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a CPA. So right then, on
car. I'm
that
going to
day,
be a CPA.
I went from wanting to be an astronaut or a fireman, whichever 8-year-old boy wants to do. I'm going to be a CPA. And from that moment, it never changed. Never deviated.
That's so interesting. So you did accounting, and then, well, there's probably so much of your story we can get into, but you did accounting. I know that you were in the oil field for a little bit, or oil sector for a long time.
I've done a little bit of a lot of stuff.
Okay. Because I know there's a crazy story that we need to get to about that one that I want to touch on.
So I knew accounting, okay, but I also wanted to own my own business one day. So the further when I got into college, I knew accounting was my ticket. Because if you want to own your own business, you need to know the money
Okay,
side.
I want to stop it right here because, just for a second.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a CPA to run a business. Most aren't. But what John just said, and that's going to be a large part of what we talk about on this podcast going forward, is you have to understand how to use that kind of information. You have to make sure that somebody, your CPA, your bookkeeper, is keeping it. We should do another episode with you on accounting rather than sales, but that's huge.
Yeah.
Just to have that basic understanding. I don't want to intimidate people and think I can't do it because I'm not a CPA. Most business owners should not, cannot, won't become CPAs.
Right.
But there's a level of structured thinking that goes with accounting.
It's really funny because there's this guy that wrote a book that's really helps business owners do that.
I think it's hold it up to the camera here. Oh, wait a minute.
It's called The Profit Problem by Martin Holland.
Yes, they say I make money, so why don't I have it in? I'm giving John one.
Yeah, where's it coming? When's it coming?
I'm going to give you one here, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. It's
Yeah.
not accounting; it's how to use the information. But
Right.
sorry,
But
I
you're
interrupted
exactly
you
right.
when you were saying you said you need to understand accounting to be in business. So.
That's right. So what I tell people is if they're starting a business, the first two things you need to do, because you have, like the guy on the podcast the other day in Granite, he knows how to do Granite.
Yeah.
He knows all of that. He needs that other component.
Right.
So the first thing I tell people, you hire a great accountant, you get a good lawyer. Because once you get so far into something, then you're trying to do back tax returns. Now you get hit with this audit.
You can't operate your company without that.
No, you can't. So let them handle it. Pay them what
So
they're earning.
we'll refer people back to Eric Daffern. That's one of our
episode 6,
episodes.
John. We had
Okay.
we had a construction attorney on.
Yeah.
So
All right.
So
anyway, I graduate. I hated college. Had to work. To put myself through college.
Oh, wow.
Now, tuition wasn't what it is today back then. Okay, so I'm not going to paint some.
Right.
I got through college. Worked 35, 40 hours a week, odd jobs, this job, cleaning offices at 4 in the morning, 12 at night, whatever. I went to school when I could.
Yeah.
Because I had a daytime job. So I would, the first day of classes, I would get my syllabus. And the first thing I did is I checked, do they check attendance? So do I have to come? And then I would go on the days when tests were, or when this project was. So I didn't enjoy college, but still got out and I took one semester, I interned with KPMG. So I took a semester.
Pete Marr at KPMG.
Yeah.
In the old days, there were
The
big
Big
eight accounting firms. What are there, 2 now or something?
Four maybe?
Four. Yeah, anyway, it's all changed. But
Yeah. So anyway, finished college and already had an offer from KPMG. So I got an offer from KPMG after I interned, which the neat thing, my internship was the spring of my junior year. So at the end of that internship, they offered me a job. So that took some of the pressure off. So I knew, I had a job. I just had to finish my senior year. So I finished my senior year, went to KPMG, and I was on the audit side. It's a great experience, and did a year with KPMG. And I don't know how they all work now, but there were 12 of us that got hired at the same time, coming out of college. And then once you get through a busy season, it's like they
see who's left.
Well, or we use that group. Now let's wait for the next group. So I watched 10 of my coworkers or entry level. Yeah. They're gone, and I was the 11th. And which was fine. Then I went with a local accounting firm back home in Tuscaloosa. And that was good because that gave me the tax side. So now I got to do some tax. I'd been exposed to the audit.
Right.
And so had worked there for a year and wasn't married at the time. My now wife and I were dating. And I remember I finished up a busy season. I went to my mom's house and I walked in the door and I told her, I said, I would rather be dead than do what I do.
Wow.
She said, well, why don't you quit? I said, you wouldn't be disappointed? She said, no. So I walked in the next day, cleaned out my office, because we just finished a busy season. So I walked into the managing partner's office, And I told him, I said, Mr. Burton, I said, I really appreciate you letting me work here. I said, but I really want to start my own business. I said, I've cleaned out my desk. All my work is caught up. If you let me leave right now, then you can keep my banked extra time, my overtime, if you let me leave right now. And so I probably had, a couple of months worth of salary. But that's how bad I hated it.
Wow.
I said, if you let me leave right now. And I shook his hand, walked out the door.
Here's another thing to point out is you decided something and you took action, okay?
Yeah.
It's a great lesson because so many people I work with, and a particular person comes to mind, really hates something they have to do, but because of money and some things like that, inertia, they're not acting on it.
Yeah.
And it can be a year later, 2 years later, 3 years out of your life that you've hated it. Plus it's 1, 2, or 3 years later to get started on whatever it was you want to do. So anyway, great lesson. I just want to point it out.
I mean, I grew up and my dad taught us a lot of things. My dad, loved my dad, he always coached me, always taught me this. We worked in the yard, did this, but I couldn't read a tape measure. Crazy.
And you were an accountant and you couldn't read a tape measure?
Well, I didn't know all those lines. It's like, what's that little line? So I was like, it's 3 and then like a big
3 of
line
those short lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shortest ones.
So I had an uncle that had passed away and he had made storm windows and storm doors.
Yeah.
And windows. And he had passed away, so his equipment was still there. Glass cutters, saw cutters, aluminum cutters. So couldn't read a tape measure, just quit my job. And
so that's the business you went into?
That's the business I started.
Wow. So what was the name of it?
Hills Storm Windows.
Hills Storm, because all the hurricanes, those kinds of things.
Well, in Tuscaloosa, it was just back then it's storm windows. People put storm windows on, and we custom made them. And so my brother and I, he
got to make them again after the tornado or the hurricane. It refreshed the market every 4 years.
Anyway, so my brother was a bar manager for a nice restaurant in town. So he and I started that window business, and learning curve, learn how to read a tape measure. And once you cut out aluminum and you cut out glass and it's wrong.
The other thing is, what I'm hearing is most people go into business to do something they're really good at, concrete or builders or so on. And the thing that we're always chasing is the administrative, the accounting. You went in good at the accounting, at least with the understanding.
Yeah.
Picked a trade and have to learn there's left and right tin snips, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you're not making money, it's easy to account for zeros.
Yeah, there's no deposits, there's no reconciling. Right?
When you're flat
zero
broke.
times 0 is 0.
Yeah. So we just knew we wanted to do something, and that was our entry. And we knew that wasn't the end game, but that was a start. So about a year later, we had an uncle in Texas that was in the axle industry, front wheel drive axles, CV joints. So
like supplying auto manufacturers?
Right, right. Taking the old ones, remanufacturing them, and then so it was actually my uncle's brother-in-law. So he moved to Birmingham, and so he knew how to do this, and my brother and I wanted to learn it, so we would drive back and forth Tuscaloosa to Birmingham. And so we worked there for 3-4 months to learn that. And then once we picked up on it, then we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and opened up.
Like there's a market in Salt Lake City that you identified, or you wanted to live there?
How does a Southern Baptist, end up in Salt Lake City?
So you moved to Salt Lake City?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you can float in that lake. You float on top of it.
I mean, it stings. I mean, you can smell.
But you can float.
Yeah, but I mean the smell. I mean, I don't go. That's why I don't go hang out in cow pastures. I mean, you can go sit in a cow pasture all day, but no, the Great Salt Lake. We love Salt Lake, but we picked Salt Lake because the market was wide open.
Gotcha. For
So there
storm
wasn't-
windows.
For axles.
No,
Oh,
axles.
the
windows.
axles. I'm sorry, I missed that. My
No,
bad.
the windows was done.
Windows was out the window.
Yeah, windows was out the window.
So you went in for axles. Okay,
Went in
gotcha.
for axles. So rented a 24-foot long U-Haul. And that 24-foot long U-Haul had, at that time, my wife and I got married. We got married in June. So
She must really like you.
I don't,
Hard to
I
explain.
fooled her.
Why not?
I don't fool.
What are you doing today?
She
We're
made-
going to build CV joints.
She
Where are you
made-
going to do that? Salt Lake City? Really?
Yeah. She made.
Did she go with
had
you?
1 week moment in her life, and it
Yeah,
was
oops.
when she went out on that date with me.
Well,
That's
we're
great.
going to get to sales at some point.
We are, we
And
are.
evidently, there's another sales job. You've sold brisket
yeah.
and you
Yeah.
sold her.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so in that 24-foot U-Haul was all of our stuff, my brother's stuff, and everything we needed to start this business. And that was back in the day. You couldn't. Your marketing was, I'm going to buy this mailing list,
Right.
and then I'm going to put a sticky and an address. So we mailed to all the automotive shops and the Goodyears, the Firestones, the David Stanleys, the auto dealers,
Which
because
is
that
a
was our
local
market.
dealer here, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
we didn't install. I don't know a thing about a car, okay, but I knew how to make axles to remanufacture them. So we sent out this flyer to all of
Salt Lake City.
Utah.
Oh,
even,
Utah.
Even further. September 7th is our grand opening. So in September, we got there a few days early and set up shop. We didn't have much of nothing, And this guy calls and says, I have a pair of Volkswagen Vanagon axles. I said, I don't have them in stock, but if you bring those to me, I can rebuild those in 30 minutes. He said, okay, I'm on my way. A couple hours go by. I'm like, the dude's not showing up. So 4 hours had gone by. The guy walks in the front door. And I said, man, I didn't think you were coming. He said, I drove 3 hours one way.
Whoa.
So at that point, I knew this is going to be good.
Yeah.
There's
There's a demand.
Yeah, there's a demand. Because prior to that, one, Vanagon axles are rare. But two, just, there's a whole bunch of axles. So to stock some of every one, you would be like batteries plus, that's all you do.
Right.
So that was a good market. So, we grew that in Salt Lake. We were there a year. Loved living there, and then we wanted to expand. So it came down, so my brother and I were looking, where do we want to go? And it was, we were looking at Seattle and Nashville. And Nashville won out because, being from the Southeast, it was a chance to stay,
Get closer.
get closer to home. So we go to Nashville.
So who's running Salt Lake City at that time?
We had a guy that
Okay.
we hired a guy that worked, or a guy that worked for us.
Another lesson.
Another lesson.
Cash flow contractors. You managed to train somebody and delegate and build at least a branch of your business that could run without you being there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a major message of the cash flow contractors. We could do a whole episode on how did you do that. But anyway, you're on your way to
Right.
Nashville.
By the way, what year is this?
We got married in '92,
So this is
yeah.
mid-90s,
so it was early '90s.
early 90s. Okay.
Internet's right on the horizon.
Yeah,
It's coming.
Didn't know when it was
94.
coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
and
moved
Al
into...
Gore invented that.
Well, it
He's
took
from
him.
Tennessee. He's from Tennessee.
There
So
you
we
go.
moved back to
Yeah.
Nashville.
Well, it took him. I think over 6 months to invent it and
Yeah.
roll it out.
Well, the thing. So,
Just-
so when we get to Nashville, in that time period is when Vice President Gore was Vice President Gore.
Yeah, so he didn't have full time to devote to building the
Internet.
internet.
But anyway, anytime he would fly into Nashville, everything shuts down. So he's going to fly in Friday afternoon at 3:00.
Kill your business.
Well, just traffic.
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
dude,
it.
fly
Yeah,
in
but
at
I mean
midnight.
stops.
Yeah, because the interstate's all shut
Right.
down. Anyway, so we moved to Nashville and get that up and going, and which that was good. Enjoyed Nashville, and then we picked up another business there.
What was
You
that?
bought one or started
No,
another?
the crazy thing. So we had our axle business, and we were looking for a larger facility to lease. So my brother went and found a facility, and he said there's an old man there now that's doing something with carpet pad. He's got a baler, he's got a forklift and a scale.
Baler, like a
like
big
these,
round hay baler?
Yeah, like these crushers.
Oh,
the
okay.
cardboard.
Oh, like cardboard crusher. Yeah.
So anyway, so we're moving into that new facility, and that old man says, "Hey, do you mind if I leave my equipment here? My forklift, my baler?" And my brother said, "You can leave it here." He said, "'Cause I want to sell it. Can I leave it here until I sell it?" And my brother said, "You can leave it here if we can use it to unload all of our stuff." So we're unloading our stuff for our business. And so this lady pulls up with this truckload of carpet pad. And she said, "Hey, I think the old man's name's Henry." He says, "Henry's still buying pad?" And it was me or my brother, one. Depends on who you ask. Anyway, so, but we both think alike. Anyway, so Miss Claudine pulls up. Never will forget that day. And she says, "Y'all still buying carpet pad?" So we go in and we call the old man and said, "Hey, there's a lady out front wanting to sell us pad." We said, "How much do you pay for it? What do you do with it? And what do you sell it for?" He said, "I pay her a nickel a pound. I bale it and sell it back to the carpet company for 30 cents a pound."
Sounds like it can work. There's some
So right then
transportation involved in there.
Then the next question was, how much do you want for the forklift, the baler, and the scale? So we bought those, got into the recycling business.
Again, decisive, right?
Decisive.
See an opportunity and
Also, a
take
good accountant, you saw 5 cents, 30 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, you buy something for a nickel and sell it for 30, that 5% adds up. That's a counting joke.
Yeah, that's right.
Roughly how many pounds do you buy from her? Just curious.
Well, the funny thing, so we called her, she was one of these that would go around to carpet places and get their old pad. And she would store it at her house.
To sell it to you guys.
To sell
Or
it
the
back.
old
So
man
basically, what happens is that carpet pad, we would take it, we bale it, sell it back to the carpet manufacturers. They take it, they grind it, and they pour it in to new pad.
I hope there's a sterilization process.
I
Never
didn't
mind,
care.
it doesn't matter.
It
I've just
didn't matter
seen
to
a
me.
carpet pad before.
So anyway, so his business, the one that we bought the equipment for, just very small. He was just taking care of her, and he had a few little places that he. So then my brother and I, so we're growing the axle business, and so then we start thinking larger for the recycling. So we go to all these carpet companies, like Holland Floor and Tile, Khalil's Carpet.
Sure.
And we say, "What are you doing with your old pad?" Or we're throwing it in the dumpster. Okay. What if I put up panels,
Container, yeah.
fence
throw it in.
pins? Throw your pad in there so you're not having to pay to dump it anymore. And then, matter of fact, when I come pick up that pad, I'll give you a couple of bucks. Okay. So then we started capturing that carpet from,
Right.
and they liked us because I was reducing.
Got rid of a problem.
Yeah.
Another lesson, you found a pain point
Yeah.
for somebody and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
provided a solution.
Yeah. So then it just started growing. Then we went to the landfills. My brother said, "I'm going to go to the landfills." I'm like, "Dude, that's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard." I'm like, "Would you knock yourself out?"
So that was his idea, not yours, that one.
Yeah, it's his idea. So there were about 35 different drop-off centers in Metro Nashville. So we went to them and said, "Hey, can we put up a fence panel here? And that way when Mr. Smith comes up and dumps all his stuff, throw the pad in there and keep it out of the landfill, and we'll come by and pick it up." You would not believe how much carpet pad was getting dumped in landfills.
Really?
Till we,
Yeah.
that was.
That's,
So basically, that was really good. That was a fun business. And you had asked earlier, I'm like, okay, how much carpet pad can you do? That's the funny thing. You never know. Excuse me. Like Batteries Plus, I go by, I'm like, that's a store, and they just sell batteries.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I laugh all the time.
How do they keep the lights on?
Oh, Saturday Night Live used to have the Scotch tape store. Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
You know, and they would be out. I need a half-inch double sticky. I'm sorry, we're all out, but we got an order coming in on Friday. Well, I'll come back.
Yeah. So how do they make money? You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, carpet pad. Oh, you're in the carpet pad. Yeah. And my brother and I mean, you know, we've worked hard all of our lives, and I mean, if we would be riding in the truck, and if we went by a dumpster and saw a pad in there, we would go get
Dumpster diving for carpet pad.
We were dumpster divers.
Wow.
And I tell you, in the summer, when it's 103 degrees in Nashville,
You got to really want that pad.
because it's hot. I mean, because you get in there, and once you get all that pad out, it's just that metal dumpster, and it's that hot. And if it's one of those tall dumpsters without a door, you can't get stuck in there, because if you get in there and throw all the pad out, and
There's
then you
nothing
don't have
to
a
climb
way
out.
out, yeah. So you always keep that one roll as your ramp.
See,
get out.
that's another point. As you get better and better in your business, you learn the little technical tricks of the trade.
That's right.
Don't throw the last piece of
That's
carpet
right.
pad out.
Yeah, what happened to old John? Oh, he burned up in a dumpster.
Well, they found his body.
They found his body. But no, so we were.
So roughly, like, what did you? I mean, what was give us an idea of what that would bring in profit or
Revenues
what you
and
would sell that
profit.
for. Just I'm curious. I know
But
the
and
first sales, but-
it fluctuated, and so we had, you know, all those different places where we were picking up their pad and the fence. I mean, and all the businesses. So, I mean, we were, I guess, probably doing 100,000 pounds a week.
Wow.
Oh wow. Okay, I didn't realize.
So
No,
you're
it
talking
was-
30 grand of margins. Well, revenue.
Yeah, I mean,
30
it
cents.
was. I
Yeah.
mean, it was the neat thing about it. Like on the and we're running the axle business and the recycling.
I was going to
out of the
say,
same-
and in the meantime,
out of the same
we've got
facility.
2 stores for the axle business.
Yeah, so we're doing.
Carpets and axles.
So you're becoming a conglomerate.
That's
At
a
that
stretch, brother. That's a
Well, I think
way
that's what
stretch.
the word means.
No, that's a way stretch. What was the question?
So you're running both at the same time.
Yes, we're running both at the same time, and that was a lot of fun. And you know, it's all about just grow. To me, business is a game. It's fun. Like, I love playing Monopoly because it's fun. When you're broke, sometimes it's not
as
as
much
fun. But it's fun. It's a game, and you wake up and at 2:00 in the morning in a cold sweat, and you don't know.
It's not as fun.
I got payroll tomorrow.
Right.
I got to take care of this guy. But it's fun because you don't know what that next week, that next quarter.
Hey, this is another point. Sorry, you're hitting just on every damn thing we talk about in this. We haven't done this yet, but it's coming up pretty soon as a deep dive on mindset, because mindset is truly the controlling factor in everything. Everything. And what you just said, even though you're waking up in a cold sweat, can't make payroll, the mindset, at least in retrospect, is it's fun. We're going to figure this out.
that's
I
right.
got to do something.
That's right.
It's that mindset,
It reminds
as
me
opposed to,
of,
oh my God, I'm
What's
so.
the Life is Beautiful, the Italian movie during the Holocaust, where he's Jewish, gets detained,
Right.
Auschwitz, whatever, concentration camp with his son, and the son's like 4 years old, and the entire time he makes it a game for his kid about they're there.
Wow.
It's
Oh, I don't know. What's the
but
name of
it's a
that?
game. It's called Life is Beautiful. It won
It's a movie?
Oscars.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's an old
It's
1950s or something?
No, 97 maybe.
Oh,
Really famous actor. Like, you don't even need, I mean, you can watch it with subtitles, but honestly, you can just watch it and you'll understand just
what's
through-
going on?
Yeah, just from their expression stuff. But that's the whole thing is he was in a concentration camp, but he treated it as a game, and he was trying to show that his son that life is still beautiful, and it's an amazing story. But even in the depths of like the worst situation you could possibly be in,
Right.
he's able to have
Mindset.
an incredible mindset, and it's so uplifting that, I mean, you have to have that mindset. It changes everything. Perspective is everything. So
No, you're right, and I think it's
We left you running 2 axle plants, 100,000 pounds a week of carpet pad, and Khalil had asked you like what kind of revenues you were,
Yeah.
and you And you were just saying occasionally you're waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, no, and that's true for everybody.
Yeah.
Because everything costs money.
Mm-hmm.
There's ups, there's downs, there's market changes. But we grew the carpet business, and that expanded into recycled carpet, which we'll talk about that later. But anyway, so we're doing both of those in Nashville, and then my brother and his wife adopted. All this happened pretty quickly. They adopted two little biological brothers. They were 3.5, 4.5, and about that time we had our first son in 1999. So, at that point, my brother adopted the two boys. Our first was born, then our second was born 18 months later, and then we're like, it's time to be dads.
Yeah.
I kind of go back to the Monopoly thing. Business is fun.
Right.
It's a game. Okay. But it's time to be a dad. And so we decided to sell the axle business, and we had previously sold Salt Lake City like a couple of years earlier. Okay.
So you already
Just out of curiosity, did you sell it to the guy who was running it, or
I did.
somebody? Okay.
I did.
We don't need that. That would be another great show. That's another thing we talk about. But just curious.
Yeah. So we sold the axle business in Nashville to our key employee. Okay. So we still had the recycling business.
Right.
So my wife and I, with kind of an exit strategy, I guess. So my wife and I decided we're going to move back to Tuscaloosa. She's from Montgomery, so her folks are in Montgomery. Tuscaloosa was where we both went to college. That was our home. So we decided to move back there to raise our kids. And so my brother had moved down to Gulf Shores. His family moved to Gulf Shores, but we still had the carpet in Nashville. So we moved back to Tuscaloosa. My wife goes to work for a local firm. I go back and work.
She's a CPA at this point.
Right.
Also.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. She had worked at Ernst & Young, way smarter than I am. And so I go back and work for a company that I worked for in college. So now I'm going. I got a Joe job, which makes no sense to anybody.
You've got a what job?
Joe job. I'm just average Joe.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I got the 8 to 5, and people are like, "Dude, you're idiot," and all that stuff. But it's like, yeah, you may, you don't understand, but I got to be a dad.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me that mentality doesn't make me any better than anybody else. It's just what I put value on. That was my priority. Anyway, so my brother then decides, hey, he needs to get to the beach. So I go, now it's my turn to.
Let's go back to that statement. He needs to get back to the beach.
Yeah.
What does that mean? He needs to go to Gulf Shores?
Yeah, that's yeah. Because my brother's family was already down there. Now he's like,
Okay.
I'm ready to go back.
Oh, like his wife and...
Yeah, wife and kids.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it was my turn to go up to Nashville. So I would leave Monday morning, 2 o'clock, drive up to Nashville, be up there Wednesday afternoon. I would come home.
Yeah.
And, and the boys were still young in the crib. One was, Brett was in the crib. Drew had moved to a little bitty toddler bed. Anyway, so I never will forget, left Nashville one Wednesday afternoon, 4 o'clock. I'm racing home, for that 4-hour drive to tuck Drew in bed.
So you had to see him.
Had to see him.
Yeah.
So pulled in, went back to his room. I'm hugging on him, and he looks up and crazy. He said, I want to move to Nashville with Dad. So I'm like, my son thinks I live in another state. So I called my brother up. There was one guy that wanted to buy our carpet business and had for a while. And so this was Wednesday night. I called Chad Thursday morning. I said, you still want to buy the carpet business? He said, yeah. I said, you meet me Monday in Nashville with the check. And then, kind of like Kaiser Sose. Then
I just have to throw in a personal story. When I lived in Nebraska, I was running around trying to raise money for a company I was putting together. And my wife told me it just about killed me, but my son Nick, who's now almost 40, he said, hey, Mom, you remember Dad? She goes, yeah. He said, does he live here anymore? And I'm almost tearing up just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, he was the cutest little damn thing you ever saw. Hey, Mom, you remember Dad? Does he live?
I think that's such an important lesson.
Yeah,
as
priorities.
Just like any game, you can get lost in it.
Yeah.
No, you can.
I think that resonates with everybody, that at a certain point, you have to get back to reality.
What matters, yeah.
Then realize that, sure, it could be a game, but the game has to end at some point, or has to take a break, at least.
Well, you only have a finite amount of time with your kids.
Yeah.
And, and that was just important. Doesn't make me any better than anybody else.
That's pretty cool, though.
But that was important to me. It was
Yeah.
important to my brother, for his family.
So do they still like you now?
My boys?
Yeah. Did it pay off?
Did
it work?
As long as I got $10 or 20 in my pocket. If I got Dad, you got 20.
So are they in their early 20s now? Is that right? I think you said 90.
So our oldest, Drew's 21.
Okay.
Brett, our middle, is 19.
Yeah.
And Jack, our youngest, just turned 18 this past week. So there's a grade between each.
Yeah.
So, when they were second grade, fourth grade, sixth grade. So there was always that grade in between. But yeah, 3 boys. So,
They still like you. So that's,
I don't know if they do or not. But I tried.
Doesn't matter if you know, if you think they do.
But the neat thing is, I was able to coach them in all their sports.
Yeah.
Didn't know soccer, just signed, we played them all.
Yep.
And then, the boys self-selected at a certain age on, soccer, but I coached them in, t-ball and coach pitch and basketball and soccer and, tried to go on every field trip, tried to be there for every, piano recital. I didn't want to miss out on that. So you can't put a price tag on that.
I don't think you did. By the way, this is how I actually met John, because I coached Brett his senior season.
Yeah.
And, man, John was as involved as any parent, and was great to have on the Booster Club. But, I mean, just seeing how much you were involved with the kids, you can tell that mattered to you and that family was important. And, I mean, we would have breakfast at your house on
Friday mornings.
With
Brisket?
all the boys.
With all the seniors.
We had more than brisket. We had
Brisket and beer
It was
for high school.
Kind of.
we had anything and everything. That's the only reason why the kids woke up that early, is because they knew they were getting a feast.
Yeah, it was like bacon, sausage, eggs, grits, which I made every one of them try grits.
That's Alabama.
It is Alabama. But
Yes, there's grits in Oklahoma, but I had never heard of them.
Grits are awesome. Well, and people say, well, grits are so bland.
Well, that's why you put sugar on them.
Or
Tabasco.
No, you put butter.
Butter
salt,
and sugar
and
Tabasco.
And bacon.
Yeah. But people say
they're like a fine painting. You get a white canvas.
Yeah.
And then you can be Picasso or Rembrandt or or just the elephant with that can paint. But it's the base, and then you build your masterpiece.
No, that's right.
Yeah, but it's just a base.
No, it is.
It's a neutral base.
It's kind of like a potato. You don't go to a nice restaurant, I'll have a plain potato. What are you going to do? You're going to put stuff on it. So that's what grits are.
And some of your sea salt. Don't give me that damn salt.
No.
I want Mediterranean sea salt.
Kosher salt.
Yes.
Kosher. Yeah, kosher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we're off the subject, maybe.
I knew
Yeah,
this was
so-
gonna happen. I said at the beginning a million different ways.
What are we going to call
We got
this?
about
Brisket?
An hour left. If you can go over time, I don't know. What
Yeah,
your
I can
schedule
go
is.
over
Okay.
time.
So we got about an hour left. I want to fast forward to sales here in a second. One thing I do want to touch on is we've gotten really good history on you. You worked in the oil business for a while. You were a manager of a plant or something.
Yeah, so
I want to hear this story about the guy that came back who was fired.
oh gosh.
Yeah, this is the story that I wanted to get at because I think it's incredible.
Yeah, well, employee stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of go back to me the business thing. It's the most pair I've never owned more than 2 pair of blue jeans because when I was little, in the summer you would go down to Woolworths, which was a department store. You could try on and layaway. A lot of
pair
kids
of
never-
jeans.
Yeah, a lot of kids don't know what layaway is. But you go try on your clothes, and your parents put it on layaway, and then when they finally paid off,
You'd outgrown them.
yeah, just about. Anyway, so then you got your blue jeans. So during the summer, you're like, hey, let's ride downtown, and you walk by the window and you point to the pair of blue jeans. You're like, one day those will be mine. So
I remember that.
Simplicity.
Right.
Never had more than 2 pair of blue jeans, so I've never been about money. It's business is a game. Can I do this? If you're measuring it in money, then you're never going to be satisfied.
Well, it's a score.
It
but
is.
if you
It
don't,
is.
you don't do it for the money.
You don't do it for. Yeah, it's a way.
For lots of
keeping
other
score.
purposes. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but employees, one of the biggest things in the axle business and the carpet business is we took a lot of pride or satisfaction or got a lot of joy from seeing our employees do better themselves. Come out and start a family because they can afford to start a family because they've got a solid job. So that's one of those intrinsic, doesn't show up on a balance sheet.
It's who you are.
But I was able to make a difference or play a role in that family. So I've got several other stories kind of like that.
But so where is this? Was that in Tuscaloosa?
What?
The oil.
Yeah. So So anyway, so we're back in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Make a decision, get rid of the carpet. So then, back on the market, looking for a job, like everybody else. So I get a job as in plant administration for a big company. So I do that, and then part of my responsibilities, one day they came in and they had a fatality at some other facility out in Texas.
And what kind of plant is this?
Refineries?
Made Coke, the fuel
Okay.
Coke.
Yeah.
Took 5 different types of coal out of West Virginia, blended it, cooked it. The neat thing, this plant was 104 years old. My grandfather.
Been cooking stuff for a long time.
Yeah, my grandfather worked there. My uncles worked there. It was in that little community, and so that's where my relatives used to work.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I was there, and they had a fatality at one of their facilities, one of their brother companies. So they come in one morning, they said, hey, you're our new safety director. So they sent me to the OSHA thing, and but the day they told me, hey, you're our new safety director, that night, oddly enough, there's this documentary on, I don't know if it's Frontline or whatever else.
Yeah.
And it had to deal with the company that I worked for in that fatality. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be the scapegoat. Anyway.
Just as long as you get paid enough.
Yeah. So anyway, so I got into safety. So part of that was bringing that 104-year-old plant up to speed. So ultimately, I hire all these mechanical contractors to do all this work. Then a mechanical contractor comes to me and says, hey, I want to hire you. And so, like opportunities, I had this other opportunity.
I wrote it down to say it, and I think it's a real important thing. You said that you didn't talk about it, but you said the pads led to carpet, recycling carpet.
Yeah.
Anyway, my dad had a saying, I think it was a guy's name was Clint Murchison in Texas, and he had a saying, if you walk around in the barnyard long enough, something will stick to your feet.
Yeah.
But you got to get in the damn barnyard.
Yeah.
So get in the game. If you're sitting around waiting for something to happen, it's not. But if you get up and go do something, you'll meet somebody, you'll come across something, your blood will be pumping, you'll feel more worthwhile, you won't be moping around blaming the world for, of course, most of the people we're talking to, contractors, you are out there doing it.
Yeah.
But also keep your eyes open. So that's another. I mean, look at that history. I mean,
Well,
safety director, hiring mechanical
just,
engineers to.
One of my buddies back home at church, and he said, "So his joke was, where are you working this week?" I'm like, it doesn't really matter.
I can't keep a job.
It doesn't matter, and then I thought, well, that's kind of mean for him to say. I'm like, well, I don't care. If I need to go down to the labor finders and work by the week, doesn't matter to me.
One of my companies early on, and my my oldest daughter especially remembers this, but we weren't making it. It was a spinoff out of the University of Oklahoma biotechnology company, and we were raising. Well, no, it wasn't. It was a different one. But anyway, we were out of money, and I didn't have money, and I went and got a job at an irrigation company, literally digging ditches.
Sure.
Because that was something I could do and still work on this. Well, 3 years later, I bought the company with some other guys.
Yeah.
And then we sold it, and Markham's has it now. But anyway, and I didn't really feel really good. I thought, well, I'm digging ditches, and I mean with a shovel.
Yeah.
We're doing more than that, but I spent a good part of every day doing that. And anyway, you do what you got to do. And then I ran into some guys that wind up owning the company, and then that leads to another thing. And I've learned, anyway, this isn't about me, it's about you, but I just totally get that.
No, it's the same, but kind of to your point, if you tell your kids you do whatever you need to do, but you refuse to dig ditches, well, then you're a liar.
Well, I know my oldest daughter, it affected her because she was telling me that within the last year that she was telling somebody else, well, my dad went out and dug ditches because he had, well, it kind of sounded like Depression, Oklahoma. I could have done something else, but I wanted the flexibility to still work on my thing,
no, you're right.
but make some money. And
No, so but opportunity, you
never know.
If you're in the game, you're in the game.
Yeah.
And that's like
got to get in the barnyard or nothing's going to
If you want to be in business, get in business, and that's going to lead to something else.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that, like the carpet. We got in that because we were in business. We were looking for this, we weren't looking. Our eyes were open.
Right.
It's kind of like from a Christian perspective. People always pray, give me an opportunity. Put somebody in my path. I want to serve somebody. I want to do this. Well, just open your eyes.
Yeah, it's all around.
You had 8 opportunities today.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of that same.
Ethan's over there nodding away too.
Yeah, that's that same.
So we're appealing to the younger generation.
Yeah, that's that same narrative, but be in the game. So,
you were getting hired by some mechanical engineers when we left, when I did.
Yeah.
Well, and the crazy thing, I think I've only interviewed for 2 jobs in my entire life. One was when I interviewed for that internship in accounting, and I got that job. The only other job I ever applied for, and I didn't get it, today it still kind of makes me mad.
Loser.
When I was in college, I applied for a job at Red Lobster as a busboy, and they never called me back. And I'm like,
stop interviewing.
I still think about that. Why would I don't go to eat at Red Lobster because they didn't hire me.
Yeah, those low
Anyway,
guys.
so I'm working for that plant, and then the mechanical contractor wants me to go to work for him, and he had a really nice company. I loved that guy. So I went with there, and so I'm doing his safety and helping him from the business. Kind of goes back to that accounting. I can talk accounting.
Right.
Sure.
And I'm quite certain you've talked a lot of accounting all the way through that. People recognize that.
And then learned a little bit about HR because I've had employees and I had stories to go behind that. So then an opportunity came to get back in the corporate world. I'm like, okay, I'll get in the corporate world, do the corporate thing for a little bit longer. Or just get back in it. It's kind of, hey, if my buddy at church thinks I work different places every week, I might as well.
Right.
So I get back in the corporate world, okay? Then a buddy of mine calls me up, and he's in oil and gas, and we play ball together. And he called me up and said, hey, you know a little bit about safety. I said, yeah, I'm kind of, I know enough to make me dangerous.
I know what OSHA stands for.
Yeah. Anyway, so he had an issue. And I said, well, Jerry, I said, I can give you free advice. If you want to pay me some on the weekends or at night, I can do that. Or
You can hire me.
Or I'm like, I'll do what, it don't matter to me. And he said, offer me a job. And I said, Jerry, I said, I've got a really good full-time job now. We knew my wife was going to go back to get her doctorate.
Her PhD.
Yeah. So I told Jerry, I said, I don't need a full-time job. I said, I already got one. I said, but I do need family time. He said, I need a safety program. I need somebody to implement it, manage it, take care of it. I don't care if you work 40 hours a week or 5 minutes a week. I said, well, if you can give me my family time, I'll come work with you. And that was our deal.
Yeah.
So loved Jerry to death and his whole family. And he was very good for our family at that time. And still is. So I go, and this is oil and gas.
Yeah.
You know, which people in this area, you know, it's big oil and gas.
In Oklahoma, yeah.
And back in Alabama, it's more methane, natural
Right.
gas. We had a little bit of oil, but we had 3 drilling rigs, 9 workover rigs. So I did the safety, started the safety program, managed it, implemented it, and then was kind of a sounding board with Jerry. And so I did HR stuff too, which I think is where he wants to go. I'm pointing to Khalil. So, you know, I'm just picking up just stuff. And but it was real good because my wife, she was working for a public company there in Tuscaloosa, CFO, C something or whatever, you know. And so she quits that job to go back to get her doctorate. And we chose, you know, to get the doctorate at Alabama just so the boys, we didn't uproot them then.
Right.
Now, I knew ultimately, kind of my whole game plan, you know, I wanted my boys to move one time in their life, uproot them from everything they know, and move them somewhere else.
Why was that?
So they're never afraid to move.
I like
Never
that.
afraid of change.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Like my little sister, like she would not move from our hometown. She would not move from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham, which is 45 minutes away, because her world would be rocked.
Yeah.
I wanted my boys to know you can go anywhere you want to go
Yeah.
and start over.
Yeah.
So I knew that going in. I didn't know it'd be Oklahoma, but I knew it'd be somewhere.
Yeah.
Because all they knew really in their lifetime was growing up in Tuscaloosa, and Jack, our youngest, was born there.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew, yep, we're going to tip your world upside down, you know, and it's probably not going to be fun. But
Yeah.
hopefully it, you know, because as a parent, you want to your job as a parent is to work yourself out of a job.
You keep hitting all these learning points. Don't be scared to change. A major, got a friend, Jeff, who,
Yeah.
if his book gets done, will come out and says, fire yourself first. Work yourself out of a job. That's what my
that's
dad
right.
used to tell me when I was a kid, was the president's job in a company
Yeah.
is to replace him or herself.
No, that's right.
If you do that, everything that goes along with doing that, you have to do everything right to do that.
Right.
And that's a nice short way to say it.
Yeah.
It also allows you to build a highly profitable business that can work without you.
Yeah.
More time, more money, less stress. So those are kind of our taglines.
Yeah,
So
they're-
I worked them in there. See?
Yeah, you did. Nice, man, that was smooth.
Pretty
Kind of
smooth.
like
Oh, yeah.
caramelization, that word. You work that in.
I
So
think
if I
that-
work these, yeah, so if I work some of these. Yeah, so
So
anyway,
you're,
so I'm in oil and gas.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're-
so
you got
you want me to go to that
drilling
story?
let's just go
rigs.
straight to that story. Just tell us, like, you get a call.
Okay, so
You're the safety guy for this guy.
I'm the safety guy. And so me and our little cul-de-sac that we lived in Tuscaloosa was beautiful. I mean, there were 4 guys there. 3 guys were just great buddies, and we were gonna go on a little guy trip. One of our buddies was military, so he was up. We're gonna go on a military field trip. So we get in my buddy's car, at about 4:30 in the morning. We're driving to Montgomery to the military Air Force Base to get on a military plane to fly to Indiana. So at 5:23 in the morning, I'm sitting in the back seat of this vehicle, two guys in the front. My phone rings. I get a call. Mr. Hill, our building's on fire. So we're going down this little 2-lane road outside of Prattville, Alabama, 2-lane road. I see up ahead there's a Chevron gas station. I told my buddies, drop me off here. I got to get back because my building's on fire.
It's going to be gone when you get back.
So they dropped me off, and I have my little duffel bag, and so I walk up, and it's still dark outside, so I walk inside the convenience store, and I tell the people, hey, I'm just trying to hitchhike. At this point, we're about an hour from my house. I'm like, I'm trying to hitchhike back to Tuscaloosa. So I'm sitting out here on your curb, but I'm not, regardless of what you think I look like, I'm not a vagabond. I'm trying to get back to Tuscaloosa. And there was an old man in there who said, did you hear about those shootings? I'm like, my building's on fire.
I don't have time for shootings.
Yes, my building's on fire. I don't
have
have time for shootings. So I'm like, oh man, what are you doing here at the Chevron at 5:30 in the morning anyway? So I go back outside. I'm sitting, and everybody's walking up. I'm like, hey, you going back to Tuscaloosa? No. You going back to Tuscaloosa? No. Then I would see people leave out of there
and go
towards Tuscaloosa.
And you're like, no, come on.
I'm like, you liar. You liar. So I'm sitting out there, and then my phone rings again. And it's the same guy that had called and said, Mr. Hill, our building's on fire. He said, Mr. Hill, he said, did you hear about those shootings?
As a matter of fact, I had.
I'm like, there's an old man in there still eating on that donut. And I was like, some old man? He told me about some shootings. And my guy says that was
fitting that the ambulance or the fire truck is going by.
That's a segment in our show. An ambulance or fire truck goes by every time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it did on that other podcast.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, it's a segment.
So how much do you pay that guy?
Well, with actually many shootings and fires that we always
one.
We always have one.
So anyway, the guy I was talking to, he said, did you hear about those shootings? I said, yeah, some old man was talking about these shootings. He said, that was Nathan. And then everything started coming to me. So I still can't get a ride back to Tuscaloosa. My building's on fire. There's been shootings. Evidently, one of my guys is tied to it. And so I called my wife. I said,
stay away from the plant.
Well, I'm like, can you come get me? I can't get a ride. So she comes. Our boys are still decently young.
Right. It's
okay.
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
To leave them.
So she comes and gets me. And on the way back, I'm explaining.
The first siren was the fire. This one's the shooting.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, now we got it covered.
Barney Fife is due around the corner. Anyway, so she comes and picks me up, so I'm kind of explaining to her what happened. And this guy, Nathan, I had fired him about a couple of months before this incident. And so I'm talking to my wife, and I told her, I said, would they think Nathan did this? And she's like, does Nathan know where we live? And I said, he probably does.
Oh, no, man.
So we call our neighbor, one of our best friends. They live behind us. But the yard, we didn't have privacy fences. You just walk straight through. So we called our neighbor and said, we're going to have the boys come over. We'll explain later. But I need my boys to come to your house right now. So we call home and tell the boys, hey, get up. Don't worry about brushing your teeth. Don't worry about eating cereal. Go to Miss Kelly's house. And we'll see you in a little bit. Kelly calls us back 10 minutes later. They're still not here. Still not here. Because my boys, they were back and forth to that house every day. And it's always out the back door, straight line. For some reason, this day, they decided to walk all the way around the cul-de-sac on the sidewalk. So anyway, they finally get to Kelly's house.
Oh, my God.
So my wife drops me off. We get home, and then I immediately get in my work truck and drive to our office building. And I was in contact with our owner, and they said, come straight to the police department, which is right across the street from our business. So I go straight to the police department, and they bring me in this room and almost kind of interrogate me. They said, watch this video. And anyway, kind of long story short, this guy that I'd fired a couple of months earlier, one morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning, he goes to one of our other supervisors. This guy was a supervisor. He goes to his house, sets his truck on fire. Then he goes to another house, unrelated to
something
work.
else that was bothering.
Yeah, it was a domestic issue. Knocks on the door, guy opens the door, and this guy, the guy at fire, pulls out a gun. The guy takes off running. He shoots him in the back. He goes out the window. Then Nathan goes downtown, Tuscaloosa, it's kind of like Campus Corner area, and opens fire at a bar. And I think he shoots 17 people.
Oh my goodness.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. So then comes up to our facility, and we always just kept the extra keys to the truck just on the tire well. So if you ever want to take a car in Alabama, just look on the front.
Yeah.
So he drives one vehicle into the bay door to bust into the building. Then he drives about 3 other trucks in there and punctures all the diesel tanks on the trucks and lights the building on fire. Then he goes down to our equipment yard and takes one of our $1 million rigs, lets all the gas out of the big storage diesel tank, and then lights that to try to blow up the thing.
Right.
The workover rig. So anyway, all this happened. So we got buildings burned down, 17 people shot, and we can't find Nathan. Nobody knows where he is. So I'm at the police station right across from our office in the little suburb community. So then they call me. They want me to go downtown Tuscaloosa to the sheriff's department. So they march me in there, and they make me watch this video of their surveillance. They're like, you know that guy? I'm like, yeah, that's Nathan. And they said, how do you know? I said, I know the hat turned backwards. I can see the tattoos. I can see the walk. It's him. So they said, we can't find him. So you need to lay low. So we laid low, and later that day, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he walks into one of these FedEx Kinkos. And see, it's already on CNN. Shooting, blah, blah.
What year was this, just real quick?
Gosh.
Approximately. 2000s?
Let's see, we moved out here in 2017, 2016.
Okay, so I just didn't ever see that on the news.
16, 15, so right in there. And I'll tell you exactly when, I'll get to that, tell you exactly when it was. So Nathan walks into this FedEx Kinko's midday, looks up there on the screen, and the guy said, can I help you? And he said, points at the coverage, and he said, I did that. They're probably looking for me. And the guy's like,
and your point is, you want me to,
how many copies would you?
How many copies?
And he just said, can I have something to drink? He gives him a Gatorade, and he sits down, and the police come and pick him up.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay, so then I get the call, you can go back into the building. So now I've got this building that's exposed. Talk about an emotional day. Now I've got to try to figure out what's even in there. Well, about that time, the news media starts showing up.
Wanting to talk to you?
Wanting to talk to me. First, it's the local ABC affiliate out of Birmingham and the NBC, CBS, and they're all coming, and they're like, they can put 2 and 2 together. So they're like, so what about this? Could you talk to us about Nathan? And I said, what are you talking about? And they said, the guy that did. I'm like, all I know is I've got a building on fire. And they said, well, is this tied to the shootings? I'm like, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
So at the very end of that day, so I'm waiting on the security guard people to come to stay overnight. So it's days are longer there, so it's probably 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'm sitting there just emotionally exhausted and physically tired. And this SUV pulls up with Georgia plates as they get out, start taking their camera stuff out. And I'm like, can I help you? And they're like, we're from CNN. And I'm like, there's not a story here. And then I'm like, it's just an old burned out building. And, we know this and that. And I said, well, I can't keep you from standing across the street, but I have nothing to say. So, that, kind of that story. And then, of course, I get dragged in to the grand jury. I've never been to court in my life.
Well, let me jump back just real quick. You went to Alabama, University of Alabama.
Yeah.
And they did not have a prerequisite course on how to deal with media in the case of shooting and fires. I mean, that sounds like something University of Alabama ought to have.
Yeah, especially if you've been to any family reunions. You want an experience? You go to one of my family reunions. Pick either side. Either side. He was married to her. Now they got divorced. Now I've got one aunt. This is my dad's the last of 11, the youngest of 11. I've got one aunt that she and her name's. Can I say her name?
It's up to you.
She's passed
She might
away.
sue us, but well, then she's not going to sue us. Go ahead.
Aunt Midget.
Aunt Midget.
Midget. And she had a wandering eye. Could cook like nobody's business. But the crazy thing, we'd be sitting over at Aunt Midget's and we're eating, and I'm sitting where you are, my brother's sitting where Khalil is, and Aunt Midget's here.
She can talk to both of you.
Well, she asks you how you're doing, and you don't know who she's looking at. So you both answer. Anyway, Aunt Midget and Uncle Webb, legally in the state of Alabama, finally the state of Alabama said no more. They had been married and divorced to each other 7 times. And they said no more.
Pick one.
Done. So Uncle Webb lived out his remaining days in a storage building behind Aunt Midget's house.
And Aunt Midget kept an eye on him.
Two
eyes on him.
So the grand jury. So we get subpoenaed to the grand jury, and I'd been talking to, the DA or whatever you call them. And so I go to the courthouse on the day of the grand jury, and I walk in, and everybody in the hallway's bandaged up on crutches. Nobody was killed.
Oh, I was hesitant to ask, but that's good to hear.
No, Nathan didn't shoot. He shot everybody in the foot.
That's awful.
He was going suicide by cop.
Yeah.
And so he just opened up and he was outside and opened up right across the ground. And so anyway, our owner, he went first in the grand jury, as far as mine and his timing.
Yeah.
So he's in there for about 15 minutes, and he's out. Then they call me in there, and I'm like, good, this is going to go quick. So they call me in, and you walk in, I'm sitting at that table at the front of the room. It's like this tiered level, almost like a college classroom.
Sure.
And I know the grand jury, you had probably 30 people in there.
Wow.
So the DA's sitting over there and the assistant thing and, all these people. So I sit down and, I state my name and they're like, basically, so you're the guy that runs everything at this oil field. And I said, well, my paycheck doesn't reflect that. And they kind of laughed. But anyway, the crazy thing, so that what I thought was going to be 15 minutes was 2 hours. And I cried. I mean, the emotion
Sure.
of explaining, then you look up and the people in the grand jury, it's like, they're emotional too. I'm like, I apologize. It just, all that just came back to me. And but it was funny or neat or just, anyway, I was talking to the district attorney, and anyway, so I back up. I was the guy that fired Nathan.
Right.
And I had to because of, kind of goes back to where I told you, hire a good accountant, hire a good lawyer. Mm-hmm. So anytime we had something legal, I called our legal counsel. Here's the situation. And so I presented the incident that led up to Nathan's termination. She said, you have no choice, you have to fire him. So I called him in one day, and I have a witness there. And so I relied on what the attorney told me to. So I terminated him. So the district attorney, he said, when you fired Nathan, he recorded that on his phone. I said, I didn't know people could do that. I didn't know your phone could record.
I think it varies state to state whether it's admissible, but they can always record it.
But anyway, so that district attorney said, if I ever have to be fired, will you come fire me? He said, you're the nicest firer of people.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was, so anyway, so when I'm backing up just a little bit, but after the building was all burned out and everything, I go in there and I know exactly when it happened because CNN and ABC and CBS were camped out all week long on my parking lot. I come in the next morning, there's not a car anywhere. It's like they vanished. You know why they vanished? Because some guy in Colorado at the premiere of a Batman movie
walks in
and shoots up.
Yeah.
So it was
it
was that week.
Yeah.
That's great.
So they just
and he actually killed people, a lot of people.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Well,
so that's I guess that's my HR story, and so then we move out here, and so they're still adjudicating his case, and so the district attorney calls me and says, hey, we're going to need you to come back and testify. And I'm like, do you really need me? I live in Oklahoma. I mean, what? And he said, you're our you're our closing witness. I'm like, man, I can't do that.
So has this happened yet?
So they had got me a plane ticket and all this stuff and debriefed me or whatever you call it. And I never will forget, it was, I was over at the dog park. I'd taken our little golden retriever. It was during the day.
Yeah.
Over there by the soccer complex. It's kind of a dreary day. It's in December. I'm like, gosh, Friday, Christmas. So I'm like, I got to fly out tomorrow and go and testify. And the DA called me and said, hey, you don't need to come. He took the plea bargain.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. But once I was clearing out that building, there were still remnants from every office in our office, or every cubicle, whatever you want to call it. Everybody's cubicle was disheveled, stuff ripped out, stuff thrown on the floor, this and that. And all the power was gone to the building. So I had to do everything by flashlight. Nothing was touched in my office. He didn't do anything to my office.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so I think it
reflected a little bit that he saw some compassion there, saw something.
Yeah.
Or he forgot.
I don't know, and even after I had to terminate him just because I was doing my job, I would still go see him.
Yeah.
We talk a lot. Another one of the precepts of cash flow contractor. It's a little esoteric, it's a little out there, but it's super important, and that's your values. Mm-hmm. And you don't just, if you're a low-life scumbag, you don't just decide you're not, well, maybe you do, but I mean, your values kind of are who you are.
Yeah.
But when you have the right values and you behave consistently with your values, it pays off in the long run. And he sensed those values in you. I mean, I don't know the guy, maybe not, but
I was trying to help him learn how to read.
Yeah, see, there are values that care about other. I mean, you've said that as you've gone along. I want to develop my employees. You developed a guy in Salt Lake City that you can sell your company to. You did the same thing in Nashville. That's a set of values of who you are and that you care about other people.
Yeah,
and it's important. We'll have a whole episode on that. That's partly in the mindset episode, but Really important to notice in passing. This podcast is about sales, right?
It's
Are we gonna
supposed to
start
be.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
well,
I'm-
but you,
No, it's about
but you know,
business.
you're
It's
talking
a game
about
of
cash
business.
flow. You're talking about sales.
we've talked about a lot of
it's
things.
way off, but it's
No,
way
it's part-
on. I mean, it's just
Everybody,
it's part of who you
everybody
are.
who's a contractor, maybe if this is their first day, maybe not yet. But everybody who is a contractor and has had, or in any business, has dealt with everything you're talking
No,
about.
that's right.
Not Nathan, but they had
it's a
Billy
different
Bob
name.
or Jane.
It's a different name.
And maybe they didn't go out and shoot people, but they disruptive. And so everything you've talked about has been hugely valuable from the standpoint of being in business.
Absolutely.
We also would like to hear about, I don't know that we have time to do it in this episode, but about your sales technique, because that's one reason we brought you in here.
Yeah.
And well, I'll tell you have certainly sold me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And more than brisket.
Let's maybe we'll bring you back for part 2 on sales. How
Yeah,
about that? But let's
Yeah.
at least dive into how you got to Green Okie,
Okay.
and tell us what Green
What is
Okie
Green
is.
Okie? Yeah.
Yeah, so my wife finishes her doctorate, and then we've got opportunities at various universities. And we picked OU. OU made her an offer, and OU really fit our family because we had to make it fit. You know, she had to find some place that she would enjoy that fit her.
Yeah.
We had to find a place that fit our family. So at that point, the boys were going into 9th grade, 7th grade, 5th grade. So we pick Oklahoma. We move out here. My intention was to leave oil and gas
Yeah.
and start something out here.
Right. Do something different.
Do something different. Start a new business. Don't know what you want to cut. Doesn't matter. Business is business. It's a game.
Yep.
Okay. So we move out here, but the oil and gas company wanted me to still do my job and just do it remotely. So I said, yeah, I'll do that for a while, you know, whatever. So we move out here in 13, and in 15 we want to do a backyard project. I didn't know what to call
For
it.
yourself.
This is
Right.
going back to
Yeah.
the brisket, to the grills, to the what is the name of it?
The Traeger.
Traeger.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we needed something in our backyard
Yep.
and up here at our house in Carrington. Which, if you're listening to this in North Carolina, to Carrington stuff.
Norman, Oklahoma, North Norman.
Yeah, caramelization, California. So, and this kind of goes. Now we're talking sales. So, a guy, he's actually our preacher, and he lived in our neighborhood. They had built a pergola. I didn't know what a pergola was. So my wife said, let's go look at it. So we went and looked at it. And I said, that looks really good.
That's another one of those foreign words.
It is.
It means
It
like
is.
the deal that it's shade, right? Isn't that what a pergola is?
Shade.
Anyway, go ahead. I got to
I just tell people that
I'm gonna
brings
Google that
joy
one.
and happiness to your
There you go.
life.
That's what it means. Joy and happiness.
It's a marriage builder, strengthener.
This is deep
Now,
stuff.
yeah, it is, right?
It is.
So
I'm looking it up.
we looked at it and we said, that looks good. Do you like that company? Would you use that company again? They said, absolutely. So I didn't call anybody else. Because if it worked for them, it would work for me. Yeah, it's just like our neighborhood has that, you know, and like every neighborhood in America. Hey, I need my car squeaking. Who knows a good auto mechanic? Or
Yeah.
I need my hair done.
Yeah,
What's a
word of
good-
mouth.
Word of mouth. So it's good enough for me. So I called Green Okie. They sent someone out and start working with them, and we strike a deal. And
It just came to me. I'm sorry, but pergola is an old Italian word, and it means projecting roof. It comes from actually back in the Greek. That just came to me.
you know, when you say
a
projecting,
Google,
you know,
be Google.
like projectile vomit.
No, not
like-
projectile.
Because I remember when the
projecting.
boys, when they had that, you know, if the pediatrician would always ask you,
Is it projectile?
is it projectile?
How will I recognize
I'm
that?
like,
When it's on the wall across
yeah,
the room.
like 3 or more feet is projectile.
Okay, I took you
Anyway.
off subject again.
Yeah. So I was working from home because I'm doing my oil and gas.
Another fire.
Another one, man.
That one's ambulance this time.
Yeah.
So I strike a friendship up with the owner, loved him to death. And the funny thing
Of Green Okie?
of Green Okie.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm working from home, so I'm watching these guys build my project, and I'm sitting at my little table office, breakfast table. I'm watching them work. I'm like, man, and it's the summer, it's hot, but they look like they're having fun. So I put my boots on and go outside, and I'm just like, hey, this is fun. Looked like a bunch of buddies that were over at their friend's house putting up a pergola, and he's going to give them pizza and a beer, at the end of the day. So strike up a friendship with the owner, and I'm like, I like the way you run your company, because that's as close to how I ran my companies.
You like the culture that you could see visibly as a customer.
I could see it
Yeah.
beyond, you built me a structure, whoop-de-doo. But it's how you built it, all of that. I'm like, I like that. So then he calls me up one day and says, hey, let's go to lunch. I mean, like, if you're going to buy me lunch,
I'm there.
I'm there. Well, we can talk about whoever you buy.
Whatever
It don't
you want
matter.
to talk about.
You pick the subject, as long as I can order whatever I want. So, long story short, I agree to help him a little bit in the interim when I can, when I'm not doing my oil and gas
Selling.
stuff.
Or however.
Or talking to people.
Okay.
One, I'm not a salesman.
We're going to have to scrap this whole episode.
No. It's funny. I was looking at it,
No, a lot of good salesmen say that.
but I've been in sales since I
Right.
could walk.
Yeah.
Because you sell yourself on the playground. Why do we want to pick him on our kick pin team? Or, we're playing soccer. Why am I picking him first? Or when you're always selling yourself. you
Yeah.
know. So everybody's a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as far as anyway, so I'm very interested in the logistics, and I love processes. If I could probably go back, accounting was a great degree, but I would also do like logistics.
Yeah. Supply
process.
chain management or something
Yeah.
like that.
Like, you know what? Like, I love manufacturing. I love processes. I like the way things are built. If I can cut out a step, why not cut out a step? I hate inefficiency. So, like, one of these days when I ultimately retire, I'm going to walk into a Waffle House and say, look, just give me a hat. I don't need any benefits. I want to cook because I love that process.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want you to call out those orders, baby. Scattered, covered, smothered, top, diced, and sliced. Just call it out.
And you're going to add brisket to the menu.
And brisket or possum. So it was a good opportunity for, because Kevin said, you're
Kevin's owner of Green Okie.
Kevin's the owner of Green
Yeah.
Okie. Super nice guy.
Yeah.
And that's why I went there, was because of him. And because that like-minded, and he said, look at my business and give me your, so I get to kind of critique, maybe if we do this, maybe if you do that, have you thought about this, have you thought about that? So one thing led to another, and so I started helping him when I could,
Yeah.
and then that turned into more. And so that was 2015.
Wow.
You know.
So it's been 5 years.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
they've
5
just blown up, right?
Yeah, blown up is, that's an understatement. I feel like it's grown a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and it's every part of that business, and it's not me. Oh, look what it's.
We didn't pay you to say that either, did we? It's all four parts. Got to all work. The leadership and the marketing and the sales and the ability to put them up and the ability to keep track of the money and the HR and the IT and do my emails work. All of them have to work.
Well, it has to, or else you can't handle growth. You can't get larger if you can't.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yes.
You go to any
Voice of
McDonald's. You go
experience.
to any McDonald's in the world, the French fries taste the same because they cook them the same.
Yeah.
So you have to manage every day, and you have to have these processes in place to handle that growth.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just like back to the axles. I could take one axle, break it down, and rebuild it in 20 minutes. Or if I line 30 of the same type, 86 Honda Accord, driver's side, automatic. Line all 30 up, do a little switching, machining. Now I did all 30 very quickly, and it's a better product.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of like if you don't take care of the little things, the big things, manage the pennies and the dollars take care of themselves.
You're just
Yep.
100% singing our tune, man.
It's good.
So,
So you've been at Green Okie for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Give us an idea, and we definitely are going to do part 2, and we'll be wrapping up this one. But give us an idea of, how many jobs, how many quotes are you given a week, just on average? It varies during the season. I know summer's really busy.
During COVID, during anything else. I probably, like if you picked any week in June, I probably talked to 50 people in 1 week.
Yeah. And then how booked? This won't release until October. But today's September 24th when we're recording.
Today's September 24th.
How far are you guys booked out right now?
All right. So if you come up to me today and I talk to you and you want a pergola, you want a pavilion, you want me to build you a project, the earliest March 15th of 2021, and that's my guys working 6 days a week.
Yeah.
That's being very efficient.
Yeah.
I mean,
You guys are very, very efficient. It's just you're selling that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Why don't you just hire about twice as many guys and go double up and knock those out?
That's a good question. Not for me to answer, but I've thought about it.
You got an idea, though, don't you?
Yeah, I do, but I kind of go back and forth on, all right, are you going to buy that much more equipment? You got that much more overhead. You got that much more work comp.
And can you automatically acquire that talent, not Bobby's talent?
That's right. And that talent, and we take care of our guys. But yeah, it's not about just going and hiring bodies or buying a new truck or buying another set of tools. You got to keep your standards
high.
Now,
It's how you got to where you are.
What is? And do we make mistakes every day?
Yeah.
But I can fix anything. But you got to tell me.
It's how you handle the mistakes.
That's
Everyone's going to have the mistakes.
And that goes back to parenting. Own your mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You make a mistake, you own it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to talk about the sales, and I know this episode was necessary just to get to know John. I think people will love it, and I think part 2 we'll really be able to dive into the sales. The questions that I think we want to answer in the next question are, do you like sales and why or why not? Obviously, 5 years, I think you like it. Really identifying who is that ideal customer for you, and how much time do you spend working on in a week prospecting, calls, follow-up calls, in-person meetings, proposals, quotes, anything admin related, and other things I may have left off there. We want you to describe your sales process. What are the steps that you go through from you got a lead to you close the deal and you shook their hand? I don't know. We want to know how you qualify prospects, what they have to do for you to meet with them. Like, is it they just send you a text, hey, come over, or do they have to do any steps for that? How you build rapport with the customer. I think people already know how you do that.
I think we've seen that.
Yeah. What's your close percentage, and what's the difference between people who buy and people who don't? And we've got all these questions that are sales related that we want to get to, and I know that you're going to do fantastic on it. So we'll definitely be getting you on. Yeah, are you? I haven't asked you if you're willing. To do
The crowd. I'm sitting here thinking, all right, some guy left Oklahoma City this morning. He's driving to Memphis. He puts this podcast on sales. So about right now, we're about 2 hours in. He's right at the state line. He's like, I've been listening for 2 hours and they have not talked about sales yet.
You have to prepare the soil before you plant the crop.
Yeah, I know, but that guy, he pulled over at that gas station in Gore, and he's like, I just wasted 2 hours of my life.
No, man, you have been
Listening to some
describing.
redneck
you've
from
hit-
Alabama with the
you've
burned
hit
building.
every point, almost every point that we want to talk about over the entire life of this podcast. It wound up, instead of being about sales, being about in business. And that's just, the only problem with that, and it's not a problem, is that we mislabeled this little sheet I got, right?
Yeah.
Which we can change. It's about being, no.
Kind of that fluidity,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and just kind of
It's caramelized. It's like
It's caramelized.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
We're gonna. Matter of fact, I think we got a new. This whole thing's going to be about caramelization.
projectile caramelization.
Okay, we
With-
got it.
Yeah.
We
no,
got our
man.
title.
It's great.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I think, I know, I've worked with over 350 businesses directly, and I know this. I won't say everyone because that's too much, but people think they're the only ones who are messing up, screwing up,
No.
don't know, and it is an immense, to me, I'll speak for me personally, it's immense relief to hear other people's going with the same problem.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
people who don't own businesses, I love them, don't get me wrong, but they don't get it. The old saying is, the people who say, oh, it's just all about the almighty dollar, it's about profit, like that's noble to loathe that. And I said, okay, so you're telling me that you want somebody to spend every penny of their income on expense. That's what no profit means, or less. I don't have anything left over to grow. I don't have anything left over to pay taxes. I don't have anything to give to my church or to my synagogue or to a foundation. I don't have anything left over. That's what you want. But a lot of people think that way.
Yeah.
Business owners come to realize, well, they're not business owners long if they don't believe profit's good. But I think the great thing from this, at least for me, if I would definitely, well, I will listen to this, is just to hear other people having the experiences. And the one thing I do want to say, you came in trained as an accountant, your wife's got a PhD. I want anybody, I could see how it's going, oh man, I don't have a PhD, I don't have an accounting degree. You don't have to have
No,
that.
you don't.
You have to acquire that. Do what you do, and then hire an accountant to help you, and hire marketing guys to help you, and hire the attorney, the banker to help you.
Yeah.
So you got all that across. I think
It's been great. And you know what? The best segment of this might actually be the final segment, because I have no idea how he's going to do it. But our last segment of every episode is Ethan's Insights. And this one...
Hey, we didn't do Mount Rushmore.
Hey, he's not
Well,
fact.
we'll do it on part
Okay.
He's not fact checking anything.
No, he's not fact-checking.
No.
But
Just
he's
have
gonna
that
recap.
stuff I told you.
Hey, I'm telling you, I'm pretty impressed with this kid.
Yeah, I like
Because he pulls stuff out, and I'm
fact
going,
checking today.
did I say that? Did he say that? Well, that's pretty good.
Okay, well, let's see it. Let's put a minute on the clock.
It's a little hard.
I don't know
So
how
what
you're
is
gonna
this,
do
like a rapid fire?
You're going to
He's
find
just
out.
doing a recap as fast as he can.
What we said, he paid attention to usually, and he writes it down.
Okay, you ready, Ethan?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Go for it.
Well, we started off with talking about grilling for about 10 minutes, so it's concluded that John is the grill master. He knew one thing before starting to get into business, and he wanted to understand accounting. So I thought that was really, that was a new thought to this show, honestly. First things to do when starting business, hire a great accountant, hire a lawyer. Those are your two things. One thing I noticed about John's story is he wasn't afraid to make decisions and take chances. He went to different industries. He moved across the country. He took on jobs he didn't have much experience in, which I thought was very brave. Business is a game, but it's possible to get lost in the game. That was Khalil's point. But John's also original point that business is a game. John took pride in seeing his employees do well outside of work, which I thought was really well said. You helped one of your old employees, well, the one who shot people, but you tried to help him read, to learn how to read, which I thought was very noble of you.
Clarification, he didn't help John.
Yeah.
John didn't help him shoot people. He helped
Yeah.
the guy who shot
Yeah,
people.
He
we got
helped the man.
Yeah, I'm an accessory.
He didn't teach him how to shoot a gun or anything. Let's clarify that. But John learned different aspects of running a business by wearing many different hats. You worked as HR, you did sales, you did admin stuff, you ran a business before, which I thought was really cool. I had a good one here. You can't handle growth without having every area of your business ready. Processes, capacity, systems, administration. I thought that was a really big point. And my favorite quote was, manage the pennies and the dollars do the rest.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And dream job is Waffle House line cook.
Yeah, make sure that gets in there.
Make sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I don't know how podcasts really work, like if they're radio beams, but they go off into space and they're here eternity.
They're in the cloud, whatever that means.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Al Gore invented that too.
He did.
That's why he had to invent the internet, because he had a cloud out there and he couldn't reach it.
Yeah. And he had to connect it.
Yeah, had to
The
connect.
dots somewhere.
Well, John, we appreciate it. Part 2, we'll try to record here in the next month or so and get you back on. But appreciate you being on and talking brisket and subpoenas and fires.
Yeah, I mean,
and axles
sometimes
and
you
carpet.
can't just make all that stuff up. I mean,
Hey, Mark Twain had a great quote. He said, "Truth is stranger than fiction," which makes sense, because fiction is constrained by the probabilities. Truth is not.
no, that's right.
And
That's right.
if you wrote it as fiction, people would be going, "Pfft." But when it's true, oh my God,
That's crazy.
I mean, it's,
fantastic.
Well, appreciate you being on, helping us help contractors with less stress, more time, and more money. We'll have you on soon. Appreciate it, John.
all right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Cash Flow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.
What's up, cash flow contractors? Khalil here. Thank you so much for getting to the end of this episode. It means the world to us that you're listening. I've got a favor to ask. So we are looking for contractors who would like to have a consult, a free consult with myself and with Martin for about 30 minutes to an hour. We'll basically just ask you questions about your business, about what it's like for you to work as a contractor, and then we will answer any of your questions specific to your business. Then we'll make that a live episode for other contractors to learn from, to engage with. And we think it's a great way for people to really see clear, specific answers to problems that contractors have. So if that interests you at all, we're not going to share any of your information. You don't even need to say your name on the episode. But I think we want to get some more of these episodes out there. And if you're willing to do that, we've got a link in the show notes that allows you to just submit a form for a consult. Then we'll schedule it with you and record it, and we'll put you live on the podcast. So if that interests you, please check it out in the show notes. If not, no worries. Or if you know someone else that you think would be interested in it, send it to them. That'd be great. But appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, we hope that you're finding less stress, more time, and more money. Thanks.